Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is that you happen to be watching this. Welcome to the Power Platform Today show. Today I have got a wonderful person. I have got Laura Graham Brown joining me, and we're going to be talking all things Power Platform community, MVP Summit, a little bit of that. Probably not so much what she actually learned, because she's not allowed to say most of that, but we'll cover that off when we get into it. So I will bring her on now. Good evening, Laura Graham Brown. How are you? And can you introduce yourself, please?
Good evening, or perhaps good afternoon, or good morning. My brain is not quite sure. I am Laura Graham Brown, most commonly known as Laura GB, because Graham Brown's too long. I am known for being the person that sits between the data people and the Power Platform people, and know enough of either side to do things. So I am a data platform and a BizApps MVP. I've come from the business side. I spent most of my career working in Excel and, heaven forbid, Access databases, and kind of worked my way into ending up doing some Power BI, ending up moving from training to consultancy to development and all those kind of things. And then by accident, I found the tech world, the tech communities, by accident, and I haven't looked back. That was about 10 years ago.
That's interesting. So a few people we've spoken to so far have, or I've spoken to so far, have kind of fallen into the world of Power Platform. I certainly would put myself in that area. But you were working with Excel and Access. So were you in sort of an IT support type role? Where were you actually in before you got into?
So 20 years ago, I was a CCmail admin administrator. I was an email guru for a big insurance company, and then I had a baby, and thought I was going to give up work and be an at-home mum. For those of you that know me, you can guess how long that lasted. Before I actually went, I can't do this. I need my tech. I need my tech stuff. I need that tech buzz.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I could train. I knew I could stand up and teach. And so I phoned up a couple of training companies, and one said, "Yeah, are you free on?" And I had a conversation with them, went and saw the office for about 10 minutes, and they said, "Are you free on Thursday?" I assumed that was for a job interview. It wasn't. It was to teach Excel. And that was the beginning of me stepping into. So before that, I'd been internal PC support. My first job was taking away green screens and giving people PCs and teaching them how to use a mouse and teach them that, yes, you do have to save a document. Don't just close the box, all those kind of things. And so then I did about 25 years of being a freelancer. So it wasn't a contract. I didn't go and do long contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I went and did three or 4 days training here, a couple of days development here. Some companies I did that for over 10 years.
Wow.
And I had a ball. I had really good fun. I would go and find products that I fancied learning, and then go to the training schools and convince them they could sell a course, which then gave me the justification for going away and learning it.
Right. Yep.
And
Market research.
That's what happened with Power BI and Power Apps. And I started with, and I found out that lots of trainers hated InfoPath and SharePoint designer workflows. And so worked out that, well, if I can do those, there's a market for those. So I did that, and then worked out why everybody hates InfoPath and SharePoint designer. And from there found Power Apps and Power Automate, or back and then Flow, and kind of went from there. And doing Power BI was natural after having spent. If I do the really short version and the slightly politer version of my career, it's walking into clients and them going, "Laura, we've got this reporting process. It takes too long. We'd like a button." And me going, "I'll either make the button, I'll teach you to make the button, or we'll do it together." And they're kind of the 3 options I gave people, and that's what I did for my career.
Wow.
And I'm still kind of doing it now.
That's impressive.
And it's just the tools that I introduce, the tools, but it's the tools I like to play with.
Yeah.
I can't do what I don't love, so it's kind of like there are some things I don't particularly like, so I don't teach them anymore. If you booked an Outlook course and I walk in, Um, yeah, I'd leave because I should not be teaching Outlook to anybody. Um, because I don't know where the tick boxes are. I mean, you do them once, don't you? You do those tick boxes once. You never do it again. Um, so I just don't know
Not to
them.
mention the fact that it changes.
And then they go and hide them and change them. Yeah, they move them somewhere. And also if you're doing a PowerPoint course and I turn up, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, if I'm doing a PowerPoint introduction, oh my goodness, they couldn't find any other trainers because I used to avoid having to teach those. I used to just double my daily rate, and they'd go, Dora, you can't charge that much for a PowerPoint course. I go, yeah, I can, and they'd go, no, Dora, that's more than your VBA. Yeah, I know. And they go, why? I said, VBA is easy to teach. PowerPoint, oh my goodness, no, I don't want to do that. So yeah, so I've had a ball. It meant I could work part time around my family.
Mm-hmm.
I got a chance to go and do things I wanted to do, and then a client told me I had to do SharePoint training, and I went, do what? And they went, SharePoint training. I went, yeah, but I don't know what's SharePoint. It's all right. We've bought you some books, and they bought me Penny Coventry step-by-step guides, which were fantastic and amazing. And so then I went and searched for Penny Coventry to find out who she was, and found that she was speaking at a thing called a SharePoint Saturday,
Oh,
and
wow.
and it was free. And it's like, oh yeah, I can do that. And it's kind of like, yeah, I'll go do that. I'll go meet this famous, wonderful lady. I then found the most amazing person in the world. She really was. She was the caretaker of the community in those days. And I then got given lots of beer tokens for helping a guy put away his stand. Because although people don't believe me, I am really shy. I find social groups that I don't know people in really hard.
Yeah.
And this guy was trying to put away a stand. So I stepped over to help him put away his stand back into his little canvas bags and all these things. And he went, I didn't manage to give all these out. And I literally got a big handful of beer tokens. My car
Nice.
was parked outside. So therefore, I couldn't drink anything
Oh,
because I hadn't
social
thought.
currency.
So I had social currency. I walked into the bar and up to this guy, this lovely guy, a guy called Andy Talbot, and he basically looked at the beer tokens and said, "Hello, who are you?" It's kind of like, "You're now my best friend." And he was lovely. He introduced me to lots of people, some of whom have stayed my tech friends. Haven't seen Andy in years, but some of them whom stayed my tech friends and still are my tech friends and my mentors and helped me and supported me. I saw the guy that conference 2 years later I spoke at, my first speaking session.
Nice.
And I met up with Brett, who gave me that speaking slot last week. So some of them have stayed in the circle. It's been great.
Wow.
But yeah, I didn't really have a career path. I kind of just avoided things that I didn't want to do and did the things I wanted to do and played the toys I wanted to play with.
So that's interesting. I mean, that's a fantastic intro into the sort of your world and the community. But in terms of the training side, so because you were doing training already, did you find presentations and talking easier, or
Oh
was it?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. It's so when I hear people talk about imposter syndrome and finding the nerves of standing up and doing tech, it's kind of like, oh no, I don't get that at all. I can stand up and talk about tech, not a problem. Um, and if I've got enough time to prep, I can talk about quite a lot of different techs. For me, the imposter syndrome, the whole lack of confidence and the whole things is to walk into that bar afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably the reason I walked into that bar was I had a handful of beer tokens.
Yeah.
If I hadn't had that handful of beer tokens, I probably would have not gone by the bar and gone straight out that door.
See that is
Um,
that's really interesting. I've had a few conversations now about how people have got into speaking or how people interact with other people, and I myself, I think I'm similar to you in that regard. I'm quite socially awkward in a group, especially a group
yeah,
that I don't know. Even in a group of people I do know, I still find it tricky because it's for me, it's I need a reason to be there. And that's exactly
Yes.
what you've just described. The beer tokens is your reason. And it's quite interesting, that little, it's not a tactic. I think it's just what you naturally gravitate towards. Helping someone to do something is what you naturally, I do the same thing. So if I'm
It,
at a
it,
conference, I want to
yep.
help someone because it gives me something to do.
It gives you a role.
Yeah.
And that's where stepping into a conference as a speaker or stepping into I mean, I would go and visit new clients day in, day out. At the beginning of my training career, when I was doing lots of work for agencies and hadn't yet got my own clients, I was walking into a different client every single day and having to go through the whole thing of meeting a whole bunch of new people, etc., every day. But I went in there with a role.
Yeah.
I went in, I was in charge in the room, and I had a definite role, a definite reason why I was there, and that was easy,
Yeah.
really easy. To go to a a social event where I don't know many people, that being an invite to a wedding where you know the couple and you perhaps know two other people there, but you know nobody else.
Yes.
That for me is a real struggle.
Yeah.
I do it, but it's a real struggle, and so my first couple of conferences, and my first international one was Brussels, SharePoint Saturday there, and I really struggled to get myself down to the bar to go to the speaker meal.
Hmm.
I thought, no, 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 you have to go. You have to get down there. So I went and sat on the edge of the bar, didn't talk to anybody. And this fantastic guy called Rodrigo, who wears a big hat, he always wears a cowboy hat. I've never seen him without it.
Nice.
Came over and went, I know who you are. You're meant to be with us. And basically, physically pulled me into the team. And even though I don't think he did know who I was,
Yeah.
um, I think he recognised that I was a speaker feeling very nervous.
Yeah.
And so pulled me in. And yeah, um, and try to do the same to speakers I see sat on the edge of things nowadays, because I think I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
I understand where you, or I can guess what you're going through.
Yeah.
I can guess those nerves of, you can stand up and present, no problem. You can, if I get you talking on something techie, you'll be fine.
Mm.
But social interaction, oh my goodness, no thank you. For some people.
We're a funny bunch, aren't we?
Yes, but one of the things is we volunteer to be at events on a Saturday. For those of us involved in the community, let's be honest. Let's be honest, Reese. We're sat on a call at 9 p.m. our time now.
Yeah.
We have to be slightly strange
Yeah.
to be doing what we do, and it's great that we do it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and I absolutely love it. But we're not sat watching telly, having a glass of wine, doing whatever the rest of the world do. I don't know what they do. I'm not one of them, but we're not there. We're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the entertaining part. I think is the personalities that you find in the conferences are some absolutely amazing people.
Yeah.
Especially when you find people who've travelled for 8 hours to do a conference free of charge, and they're going to travel 8 hours back again. It's like, you've done what? Why are you doing this again? Um,
Yeah.
and people who've taken time off work to do exactly the same things and aren't being paid at all
Mm.
to do what they do. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, passionate bunch, definitely. So that's interesting because you've got feet in different camps in the Microsoft world. So you
Yes.
mentioned obviously SharePoint and Power BI and Power Apps. What are the differences that you see between the communities? Are there differences? Do you see it? Yeah.
Oh yes, you do. Um, so the data community, there are people in the data community who have been speaking about what they speak about for over 20 years.
Oh wow.
So I first learned SQL 30 plus years ago. So I don't know if there were conferences back then, but things like SQL Bits, which is one of my favorite conferences, I
Mhm.
think has now been going 18 years.
Nice.
And so there are some people there who spoke at the first one, and they still are speaking at those conferences. So they still socialize in the same ways, drink, party late nights, etc., etc. There will always be a bunch of those at all the conferences, but
Hmm.
it's a difference. It's a difference of there are some people who've been there a very long time and have gained respect for the length of time they've been there. And there's some real characters.
Mm-hmm.
And the SharePoint world doesn't feel as old, but it is quite an old community as
Yeah.
well, because basically, as far as I can tell, what happened with SharePoint on-prem was the first thing you had to do was install SQL Server.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the person you got was the DBA to do it, and suddenly
Mm-hmm.
they became the SharePoint admin
Mm-hmm.
because nobody else knew what they were doing, so therefore they're the admin.
Yeah.
So you end up with some of the similar kinds of people. There are people who were on the data side and moved over to the SharePoint side and all those kind of things, but they've been around a long time as well. So it's an older community, not just in age of the people, but actually there are people there who've been doing it a long time. The BizApps community is a lot noisier. There are a lot, and they've also there's less devs and there's less backroom people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are the noisy business people who've been the problem solvers, who've been the noisy ones who said, look at these cool things we can do, etc., etc., etc.,
Yeah.
which is a bit different to the guy who's in the back, or the person in the back in the back room who keeps that SQL server going and has pointed out that where you put commas is the most exciting thing part of it, and has and can nurse a a database into performing 10% better. And that kind of thing. It's very different to the noisy BizApps person who could turn around and go, I was once a window cleaner, and look, I've made a Power App. And they're just as skilled people, but they're different skills, and
Yeah.
you end up with different personalities. So the BizApps lots are the noisy ones. They are the very noisy, the very loud. One particular conference I will not name for very good reasons, nearly got a whole bunch of people banned from the hotel because they were partying till 4 o'clock in the morning and doing it very loudly. I think you were at the same conference.
I do believe so.
Yep, we won't name it. But the the data guys know exactly how to party and exactly how to do that, but aren't going to get themselves thrown out of a hotel. They're going to take the noise elsewhere because
Yeah.
that's the way they are. And it's just a very different community. But they're all very passionate,
Mm-hmm.
and there are people like myself who cross the boundaries and go and visit things. But there are ones who stick very much to their line, and they don't walk off it.
Yeah.
And so I'm lucky enough that I get I get to go to some data conferences. SharePoint. I've got a data conference in June. SQL Bits. I've got Collab Summit, which started off as SharePoint conference and has now become Azure and BizApps. And I've got BizApps conferences. So I'm at Color Cloud. So I get all the different ones. And they are just a different pace. They are the different noisy ones. But they're all community.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that I'll get more sleep at some of them than I will at others. But yeah. No, it's fun to touch all the different ones, and know the different things that will trigger the different sides into action,
Mm-hmm.
and what they'll get excited about and what they won't get excited about. And that was so the BizApp side. I was used to the lots of noise and the lots of look at this fantastic stuff, isn't there? And the constant new things coming out because it was a very new product.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the beginning of that kind of started at the beginning of my work doing speaking and stuff. So it was all very exciting and a brilliant community. And then nearly 2 years ago now, I watched the data community go through the same thing, but for Microsoft Fabric.
Right. Yeah.
In as much as there were some data people who got excited and enthusiastic about these things, and it's like, you're doing what? And they were really excited about the new bits and the parts, etc., etc., etc. And there was a kind of buzz around it that just I hadn't experienced before in the data community, and that was great. That was great fun to be part of. And I was in the data platform. at that point, I was a data platform MVP. I'd only just become one, but that was great. That was great fun to watch and watch the pace be as fast as it was in the Biz apps when the Biz apps first came out.
Yeah.
When
Transform.
the Power Platform, yeah.
So I think that's a really good time to start running the video, because you'll see why in a moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the video, and you're going to watch this, Laura, at the same time as everyone else is going to watch it. You're just going to watch it slightly differently. So I'm going to switch over to that momentarily, and then we'll come back and chat about it. So
Cool.
here it comes now for you, and then I'll switch everyone else over. Hello, and welcome to another interlude video. So today we're going to have a look at Copilot Studio. Now, I was watching some videos earlier, and I've never actually created one. I'm going to go ahead and create an agent just to see what happens. Now, admittedly, this is probably one of the more straightforward things that lots of people have done, but I'm going to do it live and see what happens. So here we go. So let me go. First of all, share the window. So I'm going to work within here. Now I've already gone ahead and set up a trial in this particular environment that I'm in, and I'm going to try creating a website Q&A. Let's see what it looks like. I click on it. I'm going to leave the base name because I don't have a lot of time. Now this one's interesting. So this is just the description. That's fine. This one, this is the one that I want to change. So this is my essentially my prompt to the agent to tell it how to respond. So I'm going to keep there's no specific topics, but I'm going to be a sports commentator and respond as if you were commentating on a live sports. Just intrigued to see what that comes up with. All right, so I'm going to throw that in there. And at that point, I'm just going to remove the Microsoft website because I don't want that one. And I'm going to add a different one now. This will be interesting. So I'm going to use the Formula One website because I have a bit of a passion. It's just started and I'm intrigued to see what it does. So I've gone there, I've copied it. I'm going to stick that in there. I do not own it, but for the purposes of playing around, I hopefully think that shouldn't be a problem. All right, okay, so this knowledge source search is excellent. Good. Let's add that in. All right, so I now have Formula One. I should be as simple as go ahead and create. Let's see what happens. So this is live, obviously. Well, I say live, pre-recorded live, but still live. I'm not editing this. I'm not going to change it. So this is it live starting up. And if all goes well, fingers crossed, many fingers crossed, all fingers crossed, here we go. Okay, so I've got an agent and I can test it. Who won the last race? Let's see if it can do that. Okay, so it's searching. It's going to try and find out. Wait a minute. That's interesting. That's not correct. I mean, it is correct. He did win the sprint race. But that does not have the actual race. That is interesting. If it corrects itself. No, that is interesting. All right, so this is one of the things that I find interesting about AI. It's obviously not giving me the correct answer. Now, the question is it not giving me the correct answer because it's not understood that website correctly? Or is it just old data? I was led to believe that it was dynamic data, so it should be coming directly from there. Now, there could be more to this. I could simply have not set it up properly, like use generative AI. I think probably I should use that. I wonder. Let's see if I can turn that on. That's going to say it's going to take a while. and see if there's anything else I can do. Interesting. I'm going to leave that for now because I don't know what that is. And let's see if there's anything in settings I need to do because I believe there's something here. All right, yeah, so generative is set because that's what I just did. And enable search results. Okay, so that should do the trick. Let's go back and see if that gives me anything different. Let's see if it, oh, that's interesting. That's different. Well, there you go. That's better. 1-2 finish teammate Lando Norris. Fantastic. Let's see if that does anything. Though interestingly, this is not talking to me like it's a sportscaster, though I don't actually know what I would expect him for, what I'd expect for that. But there you go. That was just a very quick intro. So this is something I'm definitely going to spend more time playing with. I know there's a lot of people out there talking about copilots, AI, and everything about the world of AI. But to be fair, this is very early in my journey of it. And I'm looking forward to playing around more with it, especially with this kind of thing where I'm actually pointing at a specific source and getting it to try and understand that. I did not realize, if I'm truly honest, that I could get it set up this quickly to do something. So that was pretty impressive. All right, enough of that. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. And we're back. Hello, Laura. So,
Hello.
we didn't talk about AI so far, and I thought it would be quite an interesting one to delve a little bit into, especially with your data background. What are your thoughts on AI?
My thoughts on AI. I thought one of the really interesting things in that video. Okay, so firstly, AI is not new. I remember, so my computer science degree is 35 years old. Okay, so somewhat out of date, but I sat in AI lectures. So
Wow.
there were AI lectures. There was they were talking about language translation in those days and those kind of parts, but AI's been around a while. So that's one of the things that is my first thought is, guys, the difference that has happened is we now have processors that are powerful enough and available for us to experience it. And so the things of Copilot, Google's tools out there, Amazon's tools out there, they've all got them. Is they've brought it to the public. They've brought it to our work desk, etc.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. Oh, come on, we've all gone and found a place that will do us silly pictures. We've all gone and done the whole thing of it. With my sensible, eco-friendly hat on, I do kind of wonder. So we're no longer going to have zero carbon footprint companies anymore because of AI. So that's my boring side. But then, so last week I was at MVP Summit in Seattle. I still have a bit of jet lag. And there were lots of announcements out there, and why all the MVPs haven't been going mad over all the social media is because it's all NDA. But we had an advantage in the data world. But we were shown things last week, which were, and this is all NDA, and you can't tell anybody until next week. And so today is the first. FabCon, or the Fabric Conference, Microsoft's Fabric Conference, is in Vegas and is happening now.
Oh, really?
And so we're halfway through day 2.
Ooh, scoops.
Scoops. Yeah. So we had things which we knew were going to be announced. And so my prep for this call was just to go and quickly check the announcements, because I did not want to announce things before Arun does, because I'd quite like to keep my MVP badge. Thank you very much. And that's the fastest way to lose it. But they've brought out, it's very much in preview, very much in not as complete as what you've just demoed in that video. But they're talking about fabric agents.
Oh.
and they're talking about so that you'd be able to point it at not just so the options you had there was a SharePoint library, an internal website, those kind of things. Well, Fabric agents are talking about being able to point at pick your tables of data that you'd like an agent to be able to use and all those kind of things. So AI agents that you get to control what it feeds its answers from, I think are fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really interesting. I heard a story, that must have been about a year ago now, someone talking about they set an AI tool to look at ways of detecting where there was oil. Of course, there's lots of money in that as a concept. And they didn't give it what to look at. And it got to the point of it could, by looking at the way of over a long time, the sea movements and all those kinds of things, it was better at predicting where there was oil than people are. And some of those things are really fascinating.
Yeah.
Really fascinating that with enough processor, it can be. It doesn't have the concepts that we have, but it doesn't have the things, the limitations that we put in, because we know that, don't be silly, you can't work out where oil is via a wave pattern. Don't be silly. No one's told the AI that.
Yeah.
And it's like going back to some of the scientific discoveries out there were quite often done by juniors in the science labs because they didn't have any idea that what they were suggesting broke the rules.
Or polymaths back in the day when it was a smaller world in some ways. A lot of breakthroughs came from people that actually did multidiscipline studies, and part of that is because they weren't versed in that particular thing. They weren't an expert in it, so they could apply a different way of thinking and say, "Well, what if I try this?" And other people would just be like, "Well, that's dumb. You can't do that. Why?"
Yeah. And that's what but in some regards we need our AIs we need to control what they're seeing, and in some ways we need to give it the freedom to work things out for itself. I am very, very aware of the issues with regards to copyright and all those parts, which are going to have to be worked out, are going to have to be sorted, that actually there's content out there that's been used to teach AIs that is not publicly owned. So there's a whole balance of ethics and a whole balance of things out there that I think need to be worked out. But given your data, given you know what data is feeding that AI, I do wonder what in 10 years' time we're going to have in front of us. Because in the past 10 years, we've had phenomenal things. The computer that we all carry around in our pockets and refer to as a phone, but we never make a phone call on it, didn't exist 15 years ago. And it now does. Now we expect everybody to have one. And all those kind of things that you can, like, so what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years? What's AI going to bring us that we just can't even imagine at the minute? And that I find really exciting. And things like being able to ask Copilot, give me a summary of this email chain that's been going on for 2 weeks when I haven't looked at it because I haven't looked at it. Emails, I don't understand them. Give me a summary. Yeah,
Coming from an email admin of old.
Yeah. I just have to read them. I just have to understand why this poor person in China couldn't log into his emails. But it is that there are tools there that are great. And I think we just need to get our heads around how they can be used.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky part, isn't it? It's there's this technology that's available, that can be used in so many different ways, and I think it's so big that it's hard to do that because it is so big.
Yes.
And it is, for me, it's an interesting space because it's the verge of a new wave of something in technology, and it's always interesting being at that moment.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you talk about copyright. It's almost like the Napster days. When Napster came out, it basically broke copyright. Copyright needs to be worked out again in the modern world. It's a very different world we live in now. So I think that this is probably the final straw for copyright to try and work out an alternative. I don't know what that is, but probably worth looking at it because, well, Napster first kind of broke it, and now AI has just shattered the idea behind it.
And it's a very interesting one. So with regards to art and that part, yes, people get upset about that, and that's an emotional thing. But now let's go for IP. Let's go for patents. Let's go for those kinds of things that an AI could pass on to somebody else. And now suddenly it becomes serious money. And now it's not just let's support the artist, which far too many people see as a kind of almost a charity thing, which it shouldn't be, but that's how it's seen. To now we're talking about serious IP, we're talking about big patents, we're talking about big money. So yeah, you're right. There has to be something worked out, and it has to be worked out some way different as to how that's going to work. But we can't turn off the AI engine.
No.
It's there. It's here to stay. It's doing some phenomenal work, detecting cancers and all sorts of things like that. And just as in they said that search engines would mean we didn't know anything, and apparently radio was going to mean we never read any books, and apparently books was going to mean we never talked to each other. When they invented the printing press, it was seen as a horror and an awful thing. We now wouldn't think of not having it. And so AI is the next thing.
Yeah.
AI, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think it's going to bring lots of benefits, but of course there's going to be some issues along the way.
Yeah.
But actually being able to use AI to work out some of the things we can do, some of the parts we can do. There was a friend of mine was saying that she was completely against the smart speakers and the Google Echoes or the Amazon whatever it's called.
Alexa.
Alexa, that one. And she was
All of
totally
them are
against.
going to turn on now, whoever's listening to this.
Apologies, anybody. Apologies. Alexa, buy that Lego. And she was dead set against it until she sat with her father, who was going blind, and he had 4 radios on the shelf. And she went, "Dad, why have you got 4 radios?" He goes, "Well, that one's tuned to Radio 4, that one's tuned to this, that one's tuned to that, and that one's tuned." Because I can't see it to do the proper tuning anymore.
Yeah.
And so she went, "That's ridiculous." And so she went and bought him Alexa, and it completely changed his world. Because now he could turn around and tell it, "I want to listen to Radio 4. I read me this book, do this, and all those things." That opened up a completely new world to the guy, because he could find out things and he could get it. And that's, I mean, that is, as a concept, you suddenly realize, oh, that's why it's useful. That's why it's superb and amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, that's the big next change in tech, or at least that I feel, is audio. It is audio interfaces, because it is so funny how Star Trek predicted so many different things in some ways, and this is one of those things. If you ever watch Generations out there, I'm sure there's many that enjoy it. One of the best Star Trek series ever, but in that they often use the computer, and they say, "Computer, please, can you help me with this?" And I still remember this one scene where Geordie LaForge, engineer, he's trying to come up with some sort of, he's assessing warp patterns. He's trying to understand how they can make the ship do a certain thing. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was in engineering, and he said, "Computer, I've got to try and do this. Here are my inputs. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here are the constraints. I'm trying to get the warp core to do this. What can I do to change it?" And it was an interaction. It was back and forth, where the computer was suggesting, maybe you could try this, maybe you could do this. And that's how I've always seen this new wave of AI, because this new wave is much closer to that capability simply because it allows us to communicate it with it like another person, and we all can do that. That's the fascinating thing. We learn to speak well before we ever use a mouse or a keyboard.
Yes, we do, and it's the audio side. The audio side of it, I think is going to be great.
Yeah.
And our children, my children are adult now, but I know you've got younger.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be fascinating to see what they see as norm, because my kids do remember not having mobile phones, but they don't remember not having a computer. They we had computers. We had a computer that sat on the floor for them when they were 9 months old.
Yeah.
It didn't do a lot, but it played music and drew things on the screen. But so they don't understand not having tech.
Mm-hmm.
Young children of today will grow up not understanding the world without AI.
Yeah.
And yes, Star Trek predicted so many things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're going to get teleport powers.
To
Although
be
having
honest, I don't want them, because the only way that actually works is you die. You copy yourself and you die.
yeah, and there's far too many Star Trek episodes we know where it went wrong.
Yep.
And it was all a bit dodgy. But there are parts in there that's kind of like, wow, well, what is next? Where are we going? So I did on a couple of my sessions speaking at conferences do the line at the beginning of the session going, right, is anybody from Microsoft in the room? I'm waiting for no hands to go up. I said, good, I can say I don't like Copilot. Which was kind of a bit of a joke, because there are times when actually it's really good and it does some really good things. I have to admit, it is kind of like, do you know what, Microsoft, you do produce some other things other than Copilot. Will you please tell us about those as well?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
We need to work out the good bits and the bad bits.
Yep.
And I think the scary part that we need to get our elderly people and our vulnerable people educated on is, just because it looks like a real person, just because it sounds like a real person, and just because it's talking like a real person, it could be AI.
Yeah.
And if you think scam calls require a person, well, now you can have one person pressing a button and there's 400 telephone calls made.
God, I hadn't even thought of that, but yeah, that is a
Yeah.
terrifying thought, because they can
And-
also imitate any other people as well. They could
Oh
be
yes.
anyone that's relevant to the person they're speaking to. Jeez.
And so that there are things in there that the telephone systems are going to have to get better at, so that we can tell, and the and all those kinds of things are going to have to get better. But they're going to have to stay ahead of the AI, and they're going to have to stay ahead of the games that's out there. So we're having to yet again work out ways of doing some educating, working out ways of making people not vulnerable to it, but accept the fact that actually there are some awesome parts in there that we can solve some really good things out there using AI.
That is a wonderful way to finish up, because we've been talking now for 45 minutes and I have some rapid fire questions that I have to finish with. And it's been brilliant having you on board and chatting to you. There's a whole bunch of stuff I really wanted to get to, so I'm going to have to get you back, because we didn't delve into it. I still want to get into the whole MVP Summit thing and what that actually is like, but we'll do that another time, maybe next MVP Summit.
Lots of presentations where they start with the same slide and said, everything we've got in this thing is NDA.
Yeah. For me, I think it would just be being at the Microsoft campus, I think would be quite exciting, just because you're at the mothership, so to speak. I think that would be quite... I would like to do that at some point, even just visit. Cool.
Oh, no,
All right.
it was a good week, but another time I'll tell you about
Yes, definitely. I'm going to launch into these. So we have, first of all, favorite Power Platform service.
Power BI.
That was an easy one. I like that. Good. Favorite conference.
Favorite conference? SQL Bits.
Yes, of course. That makes sense. Last music you can remember listening to.
last music I can remember listening to, Christopher Spaceman Came Traveling, which I think was saying Jesus is an alien. But hey ho.
Nice, Christopher. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Podcasts.
old. Anyway, sorry.
Everyone,
Moving
all
on.
sorts of music. Podcasts or TV.
TV is my lazy option.
Yeah.
Podcast if I'm traveling or driving.
Yeah, that's that tends to come out quite a bit. A lot of people say it in a very similar way. If you had 2 hours with no other responsibility, what would you do?
Build Lego.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
I did not know you were into Lego. How did I not know that?
Next to me, there is a pile of about 4 foot high, couple of feet wide and a couple of feet deep, full of boxes that is absolutely solid packed solid Lego. And in my living room, I have a whole street under my telly.
That's okay. I want to talk about that another time. Definitely. I like Lego. I grew up with Lego. I enjoy Lego. I'm not that level. I don't know if I would get to that, but I have to say that with Oscar, my son, because we've been playing with Lego so much, and I've been enjoying it with him, I have got more into it again.
I fed into. I've got Excel spreadsheets that tell me all the Lego pieces I've got, and so I actually know how much my Lego's worth. Don't do it. But moving on.
Yeah, you don't want to count that one up.
No.
Books or audiobooks?
Books.
Cool. Glass half full or glass half empty?
Oh, glass half full. It's space for more. It's space for more wine.
I love it. That's a great way of saying it. Excellent. Well, Laura, you are wonderful. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a blast. I've missed our
been fun.
catching up. So we should definitely do it more again.
Yes.
And as I said, I will definitely get you back in the future. I've got a few ideas of things I want to do with this in the future, and one of the things I think I want to get multiple people on at the same time. Now that'd be fun
That'd be
to
cool.
do. That would be fun. Maybe even do like an MVP group or something, or I don't know, different technologies. Anyway,
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
you've got to get some people from across the different MVP brands. Definitely.
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be good. I could just have you two pretend to be all of them.
No, I can just argue with them all. I can agree with them all at different times. It'd be great.
Well, yes, thank you very much. And for everyone out there that is watching this, please do get in touch. The email address has been flashing up on the screen the whole time. So that is powerplatformtodayshow@gmail.com. Do get in touch. You can also put a comment underneath the video here. Please like and subscribe, as they say in the world of YouTube. But again, thank you very much, everyone out there. And thank you again, Laura.
Take care now.